Welcome to the Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast, a show created to help painting company owners build a thriving painting business that does well over $1 million in annual revenue. I'm your host, Brandon Pierpont, founder of Painter Marketing Pros and creator of the popular PCA educational series, Learn, Do, Grow, Marketing for Painters. In each episode, I'll be sharing proven tips, strategies, and processes from leading experts in the industry on how they found success in their painting business. We will be interviewing owners of the most successful painting companies in North America and learning from their experiences. In this series titled Ignite Your Passion, Michal Cheney of No Drip Painting will be discussing her journey from part-time hustle to over $2 million painting company, the amazing opportunities she sees for other entrepreneurs to succeed in the painting industry, and the powerful purpose she has developed while scaling No Drip Painting. In episode 1, Michal discussed why she got started in the painting industry and what her initial journey looked like as a side hustle. In episode 2, Michal laid out the roadmap of how she initially surpassed $1 million in annual revenue. In episode 3, Michal dived into the path to $2 million and how that is entirely different from the path to $1 million. In episode 4, this episode, Michal will unveil her powerful why, the purpose she has found since launching No Drip Painting. And in episode 5, the final episode, Michal will lay out the very exciting opportunities she sees in the painting industry today. If you want to ask Michal questions related to anything in this podcast series, you can do so on our exclusive Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast forum on Facebook. Just search for Painter Marketing Mastermind podcast forum on Facebook and request to join the group. Or type in the URL facebook.com/groups/Painter Marketing Mastermind. Again, that URL is facebook.com/groups/Painter Marketing Mastermind. There you can ask Michal questions directly by tagging her with your question so you can see how anything discussed here applies to your particular painting company. Hi, Michal.
Hey, Brandon.
I'm excited to see where this conversation takes us.
Yeah, I think that this one might be my favorite out of the series because we get to talk about my why and how that's developed. And that's really the piece of this puzzle that really lights me up and gets me excited.
I know you've been working your way here. We've been trying to not dive too deep into it, just to get some fundamentals in place, but you've earned it. We've earned it, and we're here.
That's right. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So let's kind of chronologically start. So I know, we covered the part-time side hustle in episode 1, but I think when you initially launched No Drip Painting, it really started as a way to generate money. It was not this powerful purpose. Is that correct?
That's right. Right. There was a time when I needed a side hustle. I needed some extra money, pay for soccer practice, all the things that parents have to pay for. And it was a way to make money. And, and I think that's a fine place to start. Right.
Yeah.
I think that kind of the way life works, at least how it has panned out for me is that, you kind of take some chances, you might take some risks. And through that, for me, the reward has been to find a platform, which is this business, to really bring out what's on my heart. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. And I think that's a phenomenal point. And I want to dive into that one for a second, just because it was something that was difficult for me a long time ago. You read all this different advice and it's like, hey, find your passion, or, if you really are doing the right thing, then it never feels like a day at work. Work shouldn't feel like work. Yeah. And I think we have all these ideals and sometimes platitudes that we listen to or that we try to model our life after. But you and I discuss this importance of doing different things, trying different things. I don't have a passion for auto detailing, but through auto detailing, I figured out, marketing is pretty important actually for a company, and sales are actually kind of important. And then I ended up developing a passion for that. But I didn't start thinking, I'm going to do marketing and sales. I started with auto detailing. But this idea of doing different things, it was, my background was in private equity, buy companies, improve them and sell them. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I always found an issue with every single company, because that was my job, was to find issues with companies and then fix them. And so every idea I had an issue why I wasn't the right person. There are too many companies doing it. The competition is too stiff. I don't have that skill set, X, Y, or Z. And my wife's finally like, hey, can you wash a car? You think you can figure that part out? Yeah. I wasn't passionate about it, but I went and did it. So right now, most of our listeners are painters, but if you're really anything in life, don't think it has to be perfect or even necessarily make sense. Just go do different things and find your way as you go.
Yeah. And I think there's this added pressure that we're supposed to find our passion. And like you said, you work, but you don't feel like you're working a day in your life. There's a lot of pressure on that, I think, for people. And what I really see it with Brandon is our young people. Man, I think it would be difficult. And you've got young ones, so I know you're going to rock this, but it's difficult, right? There's this pressure on our kids even to figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life. And man, when you're 18, you don't know what you're going to be like at age 40, right? So, and I think, all of us have that kind of, at least I know this internal dialogue along the way that's like, what are you supposed to do? What are you going to do? And there's this pressure. And I think when I was able to alleviate that pressure by the message I was telling myself, right? I took the pressure off. I think that's what allowed me to kind of lean into some of these things that I naturally, I think, began to call into my life, and those were where the real opportunities existed. Those opportunities that I was open to are the ones that kind of lit the path forward and landed me here, I think.
Yeah. And my friend had sent me a quote as I was kind of sorting things out years ago. And it might be a little bit cheesy or whatever, but it helped me a lot. And I clung on to it for a few years, was all those who wander are not lost. And so
Yes.
that might apply to people here who are thinking about doing other things, or maybe pivoting their painting company, or maybe you're listening, you're not even a painting company owner, but you're thinking about getting into it, trying different
Yeah.
things just because you're wandering around. It can feel like you're lost, feel unproductive, or like other people are doing better than you because they're moving up in some kind of career field. But the entrepreneurship path it's bumpy, it's rocky, it's messy, it's not pretty, and that's part of it.
Yeah, I adopted a term that I got from Jason Paris called wayfinding. I'm wayfinding, right? Like you're
Love it.
finding your way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that right on. That's what I think it's all about.
That's cool. So wayfinding is turning this sort of what other people might refer to condescendingly as aimlessness, or kind of moving around, into actually that's the productive activity that you're currently performing.
Exactly. And I think when you look at it through that lens of productivity, like you just mentioned, when you look at it through the lens of I am actively moving forward, that feels different than having this pressure of, what the heck am I supposed to do? The other thing I'll say, and this is a lesson that I'm learning now, is to gauge your progress based on what you've done, not what the ideals are of others or of the world, right? Or of comparing yourself to someone else. When you bring everything inward and you look at your progression from an individual standpoint, I think that is where you can gain some momentum, and you can alleviate this idea that you're supposed to be somewhere else in your life. If you're focused on comparing yourself to yourself and where you were a week ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, and you see the needle moving forward. Now you might have some things that take you back a few steps, right? But if you can look at it from an individual perspective, I think you can, diminish some of that negative talk of, oh, I should be here in my life. I should know what my passion is, right?
Yeah. And comparison is the thief of joy. And the people that you hear about, the people you listen to, the people who are on this podcast are outliers, right? And so the people who, it doesn't mean you can't do it, but comparing, listening to podcasts, or watching, Shark Tank, or Shark Tank used to bother me. Shark Tank would bother me. It would bother my wife. We would watch it, and there'd be like a 14-year-old there. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll give you $600,000 for a 10% stake in your company. I look at that, I am a loser. I'm a failure. This 14-year-old is kicking butt, right? But it just happened to be that circumstance, or a phenom, or whatever that created that situation. Now I look at
Right.
Shark Tank and I don't feel that way anymore, but it was problematic that I ever did. And so don't listen
Yeah.
to the stuff or watch this stuff and somehow feel less than, because number one, you can do it. And number two, you're not seeing or listening to, or anything, the hundreds, thousands, millions of people who are out there fighting the fight and maybe not getting the results quite yet that they want.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know how we're getting on that. You and I tend to go in different paths, but
Don't we?
yeah, kind of back to, you started for money. Money, trying to earn money is not a bad thing. Money's not a dirty word. Profit's not a dirty word. We're going to get into your passion. And yet we've also
Yep.
been talking about your cost of labor. You love your people, but you still want to make money. Money and profit are not bad words. So just put that out there. But you started, no real passion for it. You wanted to pay soccer practice, you wanted to generate the extra income. Let's pick up.
Yeah. So once I got kind of rocking and rolling, I tried a few different things, right? We've just talked about being open to the opportunities. I got into flipping houses because an investor I was
So many
paying
painters
away.
do that. I've
Oh
talked
my
to so
gosh.
many painters who flip houses.
Listen, I work with the GCs and remodelers in Columbus, Ohio, and that is a job I do not want. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to digress here. So, but I started because
We'll
you and
do
I are
next
all over
30
the
minutes
place.
will be on real estate.
Exactly. But I started painting for a real estate investor, and he would say things like, "Hey, while you're in there, can you swap this toilet out? Can you put this floor in?" And I was like, "Gosh, I can't say no." I will tell you that I have learned to say no now, and I know what my path is. But I would say yes, and then I get on YouTube and I figure out how the heck do I put a toilet in. But what that did was it gave me some other opportunities. I tried it out, right? So I started flipping houses with this investor because he came to me and said, "Hey, I can see you've got a great work ethic. Do you want to start partnering on these projects?" So I did, and I did that for a while, and it was crazy. My daughter and I, she was young, 7, 8, and we would move into a house that needed completely torn apart down to the studs, and we would live there while we were fixing it up, and then we would stage it when it was done, and then we'd move on to the next house. So I started doing all these crazy things, found my way back to painting is really the piece of it. And once I got back into painting, I somehow, I mean, I can't quite pinpoint this, but I recognized the opportunity. And I think part of that opportunity was recognized because I had to go out and find our work, right? We always talk about leads, and when you're getting started, unless you have a lot of money in the bank, you're probably not hiring a marketing company. You're getting out, and for me, that meant I was going pretty much door to door in Columbus. And when I say door to door, I started to focus on the contractors. One reason I did that is because I could look them up online. I could look at their reviews. I could somehow figure out were they decent people to work with, and then I could go right to their door, and I could introduce myself. So I started doing things like that, but it was through getting some of those opportunities that I realized, hey, I think that there's many more opportunities out here. So that's kind of what kind of triggered me to say there's something here in this painting business. And then I also started to fall in love with strategy and the just the all the things you have to do to create a business. Those are things that I enjoyed. I'm creative. I actually I think I'm a creative is what I would call myself, and I have been able to explore that creativity while creating this business. So that kind of tuned me into there was something here about the strategy and this creativity that I could kind of pair together, and through that, that's kind of what started this journey of me saying, hey, I think there's something here. And it kind of took off from that point.
Yeah, that's a great evolution. One of the things I want to comment on too is the way you did that so strategically. So you didn't have money, so you had to rely on essentially what would be called sweat equity. So you going out
Mm-hmm.
doing things for free, but you did it in a leveraged fashion. So there are activities that we can do that are higher leverage and activities that we can do that are lower leverage. I am a big proponent of door knocking just in general. When you start out, I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a hard thing. I saw a guy doing it yesterday. I don't know what he was selling, but he was doing it in the rain with an umbrella, and I had a lot of respect for him for doing it. But the you were specifically choosing contractors, so you were looking up doing your homework. When you do things like that, when you spend time refining your sales process, so as opposed to, okay, I'm gonna hunt every lead, but then when I show up, I'm not gonna have really refined my sales process or know my deliverables. When you focus on these things that get used again and again and again and again, your activity, your effort goes farther. And when that's all
Yes.
you have, try to be smart because time is your only commodity at that point.
That's right. So my plan at that time, I was heading for the contractors. The other reason I did that is because after I started talking to them, I found out that they all had the same issue, and it was somebody showing up. Right? We've talked about the bar hasn't been set very high. Showing up and then producing the same quality over and over again. Right? There, a lot of times their experience is that they get a painting company. The painting company does great on that first job, and then after that, their quality declines. And so when I found out that that was an issue, I said, you know what? That is how I'm going to get my customers. I'm going to figure out how to perfect the quality. I know we're going to show up. We're going to have great communication. And that's really where I kind of started building things out. And even today, 45% of our business are these repeat customers. And so, strategically each year I get to look and say, okay, how much did we do with this company? Now, how can we do more? Do they have the capacity? Are they growing? So it's actually been kind of a nice little niche market within the painting industry that my team and I have figured out how to kind of perfect. But that's how I started. And then that's kind of, I think, those relationships. The other piece that this taught me was how important relationships are, right? If you're wanting a repeat client base in this fashion, you've got to put a lot into that relationship. And then you've got to go where they are. So we started going to all the networking groups where these people were. But that's kind of how things kicked off. And from there, then the strategic piece has been, how do we get more homeowners as well? Because that's part of what we do.
So for the contractors, you were essentially being a subcontractor to them.
That's right. And yep. And we still are now with the folks that we work with, under the subcontractor umbrella. They don't care if we're branded, right? We don't have to look as though we're working for them. We can promote No Drip Painting. We can put our sign in the yard. We can ask these clients for reviews at the end of the project. These clients also then turn into a great referral source. And if you think about it,
What a hack.
we're working with high-end contractors, okay? And we always call them remodelers because they're different than your everyday GC. They're doing $1 million, $2 million remodels, and we're going in and a lot of times doing full house painting. But the idea is that now we've created this customer in a desired neighborhood that we want to be in. And now this customer, through our remodeling company, becomes a referral source for No Drip Painting. So we have to make sure that throughout this process, because sometimes they're not living in the home, they might stop by to see how things are going. We have to make sure that we make a good impression on them. And we have some really cool things that we do to kind of seal that deal at the end and end our project strongly. And maybe at some point we'll have a chance to talk about that. But this is kind of how the business started. Plus, I went to every friend and family and said, hey, I'm painting, let me paint for you, give me a shot here. And then, of course, that also helped start the fire for the word of mouth referrals.
That's such a great hack. And it's like a product mix. And I think most painting companies don't think like that. If you're running an e-commerce store or something, you're going to think of what your product mix is, what your, cost of sale is, and what you're making on each, but what you should push.
Yeah.
And painting companies, you ask them, hey, what's your split, between residential and commercial? And oftentimes they're not sure. Right. And those are two totally different products. And interior, exterior cabinet, oftentimes they have no idea. So they're viewing it all kind of the same. And I think subcontractor can have this sort of negative connotation, but you've built it on a really high end where it's not even really a subcontractor. I'm sure it's referred to as basically a painting company that they work with or that, is referred out. And then you're taking a project that you essentially didn't have to go sell. You didn't have to market for it. You didn't have, your cost of sale is zero. And then you're going in and then you're not only getting the profit from the project, you're actually further building your brand through securing a review, which is how you further monetize the project, and you're getting referrals, and it just kind of snowballs on itself. And that's one product essentially.
Yes.
And then the other product is your direct to homeowner. And so this is phenomenal the way that you've done them both.
Yeah. And think about this, Brandon, the great piece about this whole puzzle is that when you get in with these remodelers, they don't want 10 different painters. Right? They want one really good one that they can count on. And what that allowed me to do is to get in with them and have a great relationship. And as these companies were growing, it signaled to me, okay, they're growing. Now I need to grow my teams. I need to grow my team size so that they don't come to me and say, hey, can you take on this project and this project? And I say no. The answer is yes, because we've got a big team and we can cater to all of your projects. So it's repeat clients that, you're right, it doesn't cost anything to get. In the beginning, it costs some sweat equity. But now you've got this reliable customer, and they're doing, our remodelers are anywhere from $100,000 account up to $3,000. We should have one that's a $3,000 account this year, and that's repeat.
That's awesome.
And you're not bidding on projects. When they find someone they trust, they take your number. We're not up against all these folks. And here's the thing, you develop a relationship so that if there is a pricing discrepancy, then you talk about it, right? And you work it out, and then you go on, but you get the job.
It always helps to think about from the perspective of the other person when you're selling to them, right? So a homeowner wants trust, they want reliability, they want to know if something goes
Mm-hmm.
wrong that you're going to come back and you're not going to screw them. Ultimately, it's about trust. A
Yes,
remodeler wants to know you're going to make them look good, wants to know
that's
that
right.
they can trust that you're going to make their life easy, that you're reliable, and the homeowner who hired that remodeler is going to be like, wow, this looks great,
Yes,
and it was
that's
easy.
right.
That's what they want.
Yep. So our job is to make that remodeler look good. And so here's what kind of all this taught me, because this trails back to what this show is about. And so when I
What is
grew
it about
up,
again? What are we talking about? Oh, the why.
well,
No, I'm just
my
kidding.
my why, but
I'm just kidding.
this all helped me develop my why. Again, my why in the beginning was one thing, and then as I moved through this, I'll tell a quick story about when I grew up. I grew up with a single mom. There was a period of time when we did not have much, but what my mom was really good at was creating our home, our space that felt safe. I felt proud to bring friends over. And she did that because we were always painting and we were putting up wallpaper. And my mom was a master on the sewing machine. So if our couch was looking a little rough, she would literally sew a slip cover. And if you know anything about sewing, slip covers are not easy things to put together. But that's what we did in our home. Okay. And when I grew up and I looked back on that, it stuck with me. So, I take a lot of pride in where I live. I always have. Even when I was in college and I was in my dorm, I, had a sense of pride for where I lived. And she really just taught me how important space is. It can make you feel safe. You can, feel good when you walk into a space that you feel good about. I personally think it can change your mood. It can change the trajectory of your life, right? And so she instilled those things in me. And what has come full circle is that I get to see that we're doing that with our clients. And listen, we're all doing that. I don't know that we always view it that way when we are the ones putting the paint on the wall, in the moment. Run out a gallon of paint, you got to run to the paint store. You're in a frantic space at times trying to complete projects, but really we are empowering people through their space. And when I realized that, that became a thread of what we do. So that's how we look at it. That's just what we do. We are helping people improve their space, but the deeper meaning there is that we're having a huge impact on their life and creating a space that they really want to share with their family. And so when I realized the power behind that, and I could link it back to my childhood, that really kind of helped built out my why. And then beyond that, what has become important after I really started to establish a team was making sure that the people around me were taken care of. And my view on this is that I'm the business owner, and and on some level I've taken all the risk, right? And there's a certain lifestyle that I want and that I'm working towards. There's a certain level of financial stability and freedom that I'm working towards. I want to travel, all of those things. Well, I want my team to.
Your team members are there to serve you. That's what I hear you say. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding,
Okay,
Michael.
you are making this take a corner, a hard turn that I didn't plan on.
I'm
But
totally joking.
here's, like, that's what I want, right? And
Yep.
that's what I'm going for.
Yep.
But I also want to give a piece of that to my team. I want my team to have opportunities in life. And when you want opportunities, some of that means that you have to have money, right? You have to have some freedom. We have unlimited vacation for my salaried folks. And we have these big things, but people take care of it because of that. So, the other piece of this puzzle is that we have got people around me. They're helping me achieve my goals, and my job is now to help them achieve their goals. And we do cool things like we teach English classes to our Spanish speaking painters, and this year we've opened it up to their families. So we do things like that. I'll tell you another quick story, and this is just something honestly I'm proud of, but it's a testament to the way my team thinks and operates. One of my project managers came to me and said, "Hey, listen, our sub team over here, they had relocated from Colorado 6 months prior." And Katie says, "Hey, listen, I found out that they don't have any mattresses. They're sleeping on the floor. They've got some air mattresses. They've got kids. They've got, they're living in this house with no mattresses." And so my team, this wasn't me doing this, but my team took it upon themselves. They posted something on their personal Facebook pages. We all shared it. And within 24 hours, we had 5 almost brand new mattresses loaded up in our trucks and delivered to our team. And that's who we are, and that's what we want
That's
to do.
awesome.
I'm going to give you one more quick story, but listen, at any point, you just cut me off.
Michael,
Another
the best podcasts for me are when I feel like I'm just sitting down watching, and I love it. No, you've got me
okay.
intrigued.
One, and I mean, honestly, this stuff, this is the stuff that gets me emotional. I had a painter that worked with me for years. He's really kind of one that helped me start this whole thing when I was back in those rentals trying to swap out toilets. But his family is from El Salvador. He's from El Salvador. While he worked with me for about 5 years, and then he went on to go do something else. But during that time, he, because I paid him what he deserved, right? This isn't about undercutting people. This isn't about putting all the money in my bank account. This is about really helping people create a life that they want to create. And what he was able to do was he built 2 houses in El Salvador for his family. He built them in an area that traditionally did not have running water or electricity. He dug wells, provided them water, provided them electricity, and he did this for his family and has literally changed the course of his entire family's direction in life, I believe, for generations to come. And he did all that because of the cool things that we were doing here in Columbus, Ohio, and because I was able to pay him what I paid him, right? That's amazing, right? And so through these interactions and even being able to find team members that feel the same way about having an impact and using this craft that I love and that I respect, using this craft to be able to do good for people is really what it's about. And that has become my why. And the cool thing about it, and I think on some level I always knew this, but now I get to see it on a day-to-day basis, is that when you operate from a space like that, when you operate from your heart and you do it with the intention of having an impact, your team feels good about that, right? We all feel good when we help someone. And I think what I'm really trying to incorporate here and trying to build out in an explosive way is for my team to have the perception and the intention that we are giving back through this business. And that's why people are going to ultimately want to work with us, right? We have a tagline that we use, and it's hashtag changing lives through paint, because that's what we actually believe that we're doing.
Man, that's incredible. Yeah, I think we all kind of start wanting financial security, wanting, what's at the end of the road, so to speak, right? This rainbow road that we're taking that isn't really a rainbow road a lot of times. But then you start to actually reap the rewards and you figure out that's great. Like, I don't think we would do it if we got stuck in a grind forever. You'd have to really be a masochist. But when you have this ability, this power to change people's lives, like you said, for generations to come, that's nuts. Like,
Right?
how else do you get that? That's absolutely insane that you can do something like that by being a business.
Yeah. Right. And it, it takes me back to when I was young and we had small businesses literally helping my family eat at certain times. And now I have such an appreciation for small business because we have the flexibility to do these things, right? And the other thing that I want to mention, because it's something I'm super proud of, is our Paint It Forward program. We all know what Paint It Forward is now at this point,
Well,
but we
let's touch on it because not
yeah.
everyone necessarily knows.
Yeah, so Paint It Forward, it was started, and you might be able to help me with the company that started it, but a California company.
Albright painting.
Yep,
Yep.
Albright, and they started, their Paint It Forward program years ago with the intention of painting for someone that might not necessarily be able to afford that project. And again, with the same mission that I'm having is brighten someone's day, right? Create a space that they love. And so Albright started that, and now we know the PCA has gotten involved in that, and you can participate in their Paint It Forward at the expo.
Yep.
And they do a yearly event where you can sign up and kind of showcase your Paint It Forward project. But what we did is I wanted to put a spin on that. Our goal last year for 2023 was to complete 12 Paint It Forward projects, and we did. So we
It's a
did
lot.
12 projects. We did 12 projects for the year. We had some great support. Sherwin-Williams donated our paint. We worked for some nonprofits that were near and dear to our heart because of the mission behind what they do. We were also able to kind of channel some of these projects towards people who are near and dear to my heart and my team's heart. For example, half my team was raised by a single mom. And so, of course, we did a project for a single mom. My mom was a teacher. And so I just have a lot of admiration and respect for teachers. And so we've done a project for a teacher this last year. Did a project for two widows, someone who just got diagnosed with cancer, right? So we get to do these projects for people, and often it's in a time in their life when it's they're in a rough patch, or they've lost a spouse, and when we can come in and brighten their day and help create this space that they love, it's an amazing feeling. And I have to say that's a piece of this for my team. When you do good things for people, it feels good. And I'm trying to create a business and a team that wants to show up and is proud of what we do. And our Paying It Forward program is allowing that to come to fruition.
What a simple but profound line. When you do good things for people, it feels good.
I mean, think about that, Brandon. Like that's people are going to want to be attracted to that. Now,
Yeah.
in some way, that sounds self-serving, right? Like, but that's not the only reason we do it. It's the byproduct of doing good. Like you can't help but light yourself up when you're doing things for other people.
I've gone down that road before. I've read forums on it. I've meditated on it. Like, okay, is it selfish to be unselfish because it makes you feel good? And what I've ultimately concluded is I don't care.
Yeah.
If I'm being unselfish or doing a nice thing for a person, it makes me feel good, and then someone wants to say it's selfish, fine, then I'm selfish. I don't care. If that's
Yeah.
what
Well, you know
selfish
what?
is, everyone should be selfish.
Yeah, and I kind of almost take that to a different. I've heard other people say similar things on different topics, but my view is that if that makes me feel good for helping someone, that also might be what God, what the world, what the universe has instilled in me, because that lights me up, and that is a trigger or a motivation to do well for other. I look at it almost like it's a gift. It's a gift that it makes me feel good, because that is a strong motivation to build a business around it, right? I mean, I'm here telling you we did 12 Paying It Forward projects. I hope someday I'm telling you that we did 50 in 1 year, right? And if I feel good because of that, well, then that's awesome, because it's only going to propel me to do more.
I don't think I've ever heard that. This idea that if it makes you feel good, then it was a call. You've kind of talked about that quite a few times. It's on
Yes.
your heart thing. I really like that. I think, yeah, I think when you're doing something that's just lighting you up that much and helping people, there is no disputing that you're heading in the right direction.
That's right. That's right.
So the 12 Paying It Forward projects, for people who are listening who are like, okay, now I understand it. It's a complimentary, free paint project for either a nonprofit, someone in need, helping someone or some organization out, right? And Sherwin sponsor your paint. So for people listening who maybe they've never been to the expo, they didn't participate in the PCA's Paint It Forward, but they're interested in doing this, how should they start?
Well, if you want to do it within your own business, just start small. Maybe you're in someone's house already and you can tell they're struggling a bit. Maybe you offer to paint another bedroom or an accent wall, right? I think you can just look within your own customers, or look at your teammates, right? Like we've done Paying It Forward projects for our teammates. We have uh, one of our girls is in the military. She's in the reserves, and I want to support our military. We want more military team members. So we were able to do one of our Paying It Forward projects in the past for her. For her, we painted the exterior of her house. So look within your team. I mean,
Mm.
again, the idea is here that you're building those up around you. You can start small, and if it's on your heart, you'll find a way to expand that. And I mean, let's also say that, you know, you don't want to give away the farm, right? I mean, you got to be financially responsible. There is a time and place for that. So, the idea is that I want No Drip to be successful and keep heading, shooting for the stars, because we're going to be able to do those 50 Paying It Forward projects, right? They go hand in hand together.
So one of the things that was counterintuitive that I had to learn about parenting and family life, and it's helped my wife and me in our parenting, was that the order is not, okay, take care of the kids first, or even take care of your spouse first. You can't take care of anybody if you don't take care of yourself. So take care
Oh
of
gosh,
yourself,
yes.
then take care of your spouse, then take care of your kids. That's the order in which we do it. And if you're thinking about
Yeah.
it from a business, take care of your business and yourself. Because if you
Hmm.
don't do, if you start doing paying it forward, you start giving away, like you said, giving away the farm too quickly, then there's not going to be anything to give anymore. So get your house in order, but then you don't have to be greedy. Once you have the capacity and you understand your numbers, you job costs, you understand your finances, you've accounted for taxes, you know what you're doing, you know your numbers,
Yes.
you've accounted for seasonality, things like this, then start to budget some time, some resources for things that you're passionate about that help people like this.
That's right. And don't forget to find partners to help. You don't have to do it all alone,
Yeah.
right? Like Sherwin, I mean, we've got other paint companies that are willing to help. And so like there are resources out there if this is something that is on your heart. And you might find another way to do it. Maybe it's through Paying It Forward, maybe you've got some other cool thing within your business. But the reason that I just love Paying It Forward and my approach to it is that we get to do this for folks that align with our values, right? I talked about, growing up with single mom and my team having, a team full of, you know, people that have grown up with single moms. Like now we get to do something for all those single moms out there, right? Because that's important to us. We get to do things for military folks because we've got a military team member. And that's one of the coolest things is that you get to channel these efforts towards folks who are already in some capacity important to you.
Yeah. Yeah. You now have the capacity, the resources, the power, if you will, to
Yeah,
make that change. Yeah.
that's pretty awesome, isn't it? So this, to come full circle with this entire conversation, this is now the why, right? I have recognized for our customers that we can have an impact on their space. And again, space is so important to me that I think it can change your life and change the direction of your life. I mean, let's talk about mental health for a moment, right? With all of the things that have happened, and thankfully mental health is becoming a focal point, but your space affects that, right? So for me, having a space that I feel good in, that's me taking care of myself, and we get to do that for our customers. And then we've got, this idea and this concept is that we are going to give back to our team as much as possible, and we can make the decision to do that. We talked about this in one of the other episodes. Is that maybe I'm not going to have a 20% profitable company because I have decided that I'm going to pay my people more, that I'm going to give them unlimited vacation, right? I am making the decision to take our money and put it back into our team. And I love that. That's what I want to do. And maybe we'll still find a way to be 20% profitable after doing all of that. That's certainly possible. But we get to make those strategic decisions to take care of our team, whether it's organizing mattresses or, English classes or what have you. And then the other big piece that we're going to just, blow up over the next couple of years is our Paying It Forward program.
So if we had to sum up your why in in a sentence or a phrase, would it be helping other people?
It is, but I've reflected a lot on this over the last 6 months, really, and I think that there's a deeper piece here, and I think that what I'm starting to tap into, and maybe months from now, I'll say something different, but I think my real job here is to give people hope and some inspiration, and maybe even give some guidance and push them towards the path that they're supposed to be on. But I really think it comes down to there's a real piece of me that has to do with giving hope and inspiration, and of course showing what is possible on some level.
Do you guys have written values, company values?
Yes, absolutely.
What are those?
One of our values is kindness. Kindness. I mean, in our world today, we can use a little bit more kindness. And so that is something that we come back to often, even if we have a difficult customer situation, because of course we always do. When we are maybe in the office and just letting loose because we're with our team, when we think about how we're going to take care of this customer in a difficult situation, we always come back to we've got to be kind. That's who we are. So
I
I'll
like that.
I'll leave it there with kindness. Yeah, because I don't think that's one that you hear often, but that's one that's really, I think, a staple for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. How you interact with customers. And I think I know you focus on it with the team as well. One thing I heard, kind of bringing it back to family life, because I think values and why and stuff ends up being tied a lot to that. I had read that we try really hard at work. We try really hard at work. We try really
Mm,
hard with the external world. Very, very rarely are we going to walk into, I mean, some people do it, but they stand out. Very rarely are we going to walk into grocery store and
mm-hmm.
just start ripping at somebody because they bumped
Right.
into us or we don't like, something about what they did. We're usually gonna be a little bit more passive than that or provide some level of grace, even if it's perceived grace, because we're maybe upset about it. We're not really usually gonna do anything about it. But then when we get home, we kind of let out our emotions, if our spouse has
Yeah.
done something or, if the kids are doing something. And it's just interesting that the people that are nearest and dearest to you, you tend to sort of misbehave. And then for the
Yeah.
people who you don't even know, that person in the grocery store, you tend to try to put your best foot forward. So I find that just because you said kindness, I don't know. I'm taking us on a tangent here, but you've just got my
No,
mind kind of
I love
racing with
it.
all this stuff.
Well, I think so. What you're talking about,
I
and
think what we
you
need to
know,
do is just punch the guy in the face in the store. Just drop him. So we let it all out, and then we come home
so
and we're
we're
just
nice at
awesome.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And
it's
just run so the police don't catch it.
Brandon,
Exalted.
yes, what you're talking about has been my part of my own personal growth path for the last couple of years. And I think all of that comes back to how I take care of myself, which we've talked about. But yes, that's a real thing. And so when we talk about kindness and even integrity is another one of our keywords, is that can't just be in our business. These are things that we need to strive for as human beings.
Yeah. I love it. So for people who don't have a set why, don't have a set purpose, is it just, hey, keep going and you'll figure it out? Or are there steps or actions that they can take that are maybe a little bit more proactive?
Well, I think they should first adopt the term wayfinding. Thank you,
Mm,
Jason Paris.
I like that.
And I mean, for me, it's all these things. It's interacting with people like you, right? These conversations, I know they get you fired up, they get me fired up, right? This is a source of motivation for us. It's one reason why we love doing these podcasts. Try to interact with people, that are doing this. Read the books. I mean, social media, it can either, it's a double-edged sword. For me, I strategically use social media to view accounts that inspire me. I'm not going to watch all this negative, but my social media, when I get on that feed, I can get on there for 10 minutes. I'm inspired, right? I'm listening to all the things. And so, I mean, there really is something about, what you're seeing, what you're putting in your body, whether it's, Instagram video or food. I mean, it comes back to that, right? So, but be around the inspirational things. And, we've got the expo coming up, check out the PCA stuff. I mean, that was the PCA was one of the first things that I kind of found outside my own world. And believe it or not, Brandon, this is going to be my first expo. I'm a little late to
Oh,
the party,
wow.
but this will be my first expo. Yeah, I'm on a panel with Nick Slavic and a few others.
You were
So,
at
but
Women in
but
Paint speaking, leading the charge, and you hadn't been to Expo.
yeah,
Crazy.
I mean, listen, but women in paint, that
It's
should be a priority for me,
your
right?
jam. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. So your wayfinding, you will find your way. Be open. Put good things into your mind. Be around positive people. You will get there.
And that idea of how you use social media, so that's highly intentional. And I think very few
Oh
of
yeah.
us are very intentional. We're so passive. Facebook is, you just open up Facebook. If someone bothers you enough, maybe you block them or unfriend them or whatnot, but you're not really actively creating that space. You're creating a space for
Oh
yourself
yeah.
on social media the same way, you do in homes. You're creating a space that you want to be on. It's not often you hear, hey, I go on social media for 10 minutes and I feel inspired. It's usually
Oh
kind
yeah.
of more negative or distracted, or it's usually not inspired.
That's right. Yeah. So it's a tool for me.
Yeah. Intentionality is key for people who don't have a purpose necessarily, right? Or maybe they can't clearly articulate their purpose or their why in their business, or maybe the purpose for them is making money, right? Is that okay? Do they need to find some other purpose? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I, my question or my awareness for myself is, what do I want to do with that money? Look, I want to make money, right? Of course, that's a piece of this. We can't all be doing all this and be broke. Money to me is a resource. And I think because I view it like that, and I view it as a way to allow me to do more good and take care of myself, because that is a piece of this, that money is a tool. And you have the choice on how you want to view money. And I don't view it in a negative light. I think money is, I mean, it's required in the world that we live in. It's just a tool that we can use. And my way to use that at this moment is through my business and all the things we just talked about.
Another intentionality statement from you. It's your choice. We have a choice of how we view money. That's a
Brandon, you
powerful
you make
statement.
me sound really good. Hey,
Part of
all
my, it's
these
part of
little
my,
quotes.
you are really good, but part of my job as the host is to try to identify key pieces of information, dive in them, highlight them, things like that. And you're saying profound things that I think could be overlooked.
Well, you're crushing it.
Well, you're crushing it. You're making my job very easy. But the choice of how you view money, that's an
Yeah.
empowering thought, because we don't usually think that. We think, well, what do you mean how I view? We need money. I need X amount of money. The media tells us the more money you have, more successful you are. We see the flash. Like, I don't get to choose. We live in an expensive country. Inflation's out of control. I don't get to choose how I view money. I just need as much money as I can get.
Well, yeah, and I mean, this has been years in the workings. It stems from not having money when I was young, and as I've grown up, I have made the choice of how I want to view money. Right now, let me just say that I had parents who weren't good with money, and I heard them say they weren't good with money, and I lived in a world where. Well, I didn't know if we were actually going to have food the next week. There's a period of time where that was my experience. So money for me might have a different impact because of my childhood, right? But you can take this idea of choice, even back to what we said about helping people. If it makes me feel good, I get to choose myself. I get to make the decision, the choice for myself, that feeling good like that is a signal that has been planted within my being that tells me I should do more of it, right? Or I could make the choice of, oh, well, if I feel good doing it, then maybe I've got the wrong intention. I could choose that. But my choice is that I'm going to choose that this is a signal to me. This is, within my heart that I should be doing more of this.
I like the phrase you used also, the light me up. Because we've all done good things, we've all done bad things. None of us is perfect. And some of the bad things we might enjoy. That might feel good when you do it. But what I've noticed is there's a pretty consistent pattern in my life with the things that I do that light me up. Something
Mm-hmm.
that I feel lighter, it stays with me longer versus maybe something that just, oh, it felt good in the moment. Like decking
Yes.
that guy in the grocery store might be one of those things, right? It might feel great, but it's not gonna light me up, right?
Well,
But
let me
then
give you
painting
another.
someone's
Yeah.
house is, right?
Let me give you another example. I just had this. I went to Nick Slavik's winter retreat. It was amazing. I just had this conversation. Imagine this: you speak on stage, right? And you get gratification out of the crowd clapping and cheering,
Mm.
right? You get this immediate gratification, and the question is, oh, is that bad? I'm getting this gratification, and on some level, maybe you know, something within us says, maybe I'm doing this for the wrong reason. It feels good when people clap for me. That was a conversation that came up. And my take on it is no, maybe that gratification and that feel good is instilled within you because you have all this great information to give away. You've got all this power and inspiration you're giving to people. And if you didn't get gratification out of that, maybe you wouldn't want to take on the task of being vulnerable and getting on stage and talking to people, right? So I feel like when you're conflicted with these messages, some of it is our culture and things that have been ingrained within us that we probably have not gotten a choice on. I know I'm going deep here, but you get to confront these things. if you immediately think, oh, money's bad, well, now as an adult, you get the opportunity to look at that and say, okay, why do I think money's bad? Where does that come from? And then you get to maybe change your opinion and maybe find the source of where that opinion came from, right? And so I think that that's ultimately a piece of reclaiming power within your own life, is that you get to decide if that's a good or bad thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that in quotes, right?
Yeah. The sense of empowerment, of intentionality, of really owning your life and owning how you choose to view things is so powerful. When I started this podcast, I didn't have a super detailed plan. Just decided I'm
Yeah.
going to start a podcast, see what happens. And then it started gaining in some popularity, and that felt kind of good. Right. People are like, oh, I listen to your podcast. Wow, it feels kind of good. My wife joked to
Yeah.
me, like, oh, you probably feel real special now about yourself, don't you? Getting like your peacock feathers stroked or whatnot. She calls me a peacock. But then I started getting the next level. So then I started getting emails from people about how their life changed, about how
Oh,
they've been
wow.
listening to the podcast for half a year, 2 years, 3 years, and emails that brought me to tears. Then I started meeting people who were at Expo, who said that they would never have been there without it. Right. Then
Yeah.
you take steps. And if you feel good about a couple things that feel a little bit selfish along the way, but you're not hurting anybody, I don't personally care about that, right? Because
Right.
you're probably heading in the right direction. Now, if you're hurting people, obviously this is a different conversation, but I don't think we need to feel bad or guilty or terrible about some satisfaction if things. Just don't lose yourself. Don't start going down that path just for that path's sake.
That's right. And if you did not get some sort of joy out of that early on, you might have stopped doing this.
Yeah.
And then what? You wouldn't have had all this impact.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Yeah. I like your, I'm not sure what your religious viewpoint or spiritual viewpoint is exactly, but you refer to God and spirituality quite a few times. And I'm Christian, and I do believe that we have a path and a purpose and a reason for being here. And I don't think our life is just meant to just exist and have no real, I do think we have a purpose. And I think the way that you feel and try, I think when you try different things and you analyze those things, and you live intentionally, like you talked about with social media, we do have a lot of negative influences, especially on social
Mm-hmm.
media in general, just people in general. I think you do need to kind of protect yourself and your mind and your emotion against some of that. But I think the more you put yourself out there with the things you try and analyze and be intentional, the more opportunity you have of finding the path that may already be destined for you. At least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, you and I totally align on that.
Yeah. Some people we just lost them, but that's why, we did it at the end of the podcast, because they got all the value up until now. So, these people are weirdos, but that's okay. They learned some things. Michael, as we wrap up another phenomenal episode, I love doing these episodes with you. Do you have anything else you want to add on purpose, your why, anything that we discussed?
I'll say that I'm still wayfinding also, right? I've got other things in life that I want to do. I think I've only scratched the surface with no drip painting. And we've got a lot of more, many more amazing things to do, but I'm wayfinding too. And I'm happy to be doing that.
Michael, I appreciate you. Thanks for making the time, and I can't wait for our final episode coming up here soon.
Right back at you.
If you want to learn more about the topics we discussed in this podcast and how you can use them to grow your painting business, visit paintermarketingpros.com/podcast for free training, as well as the ability to schedule a personalized strategy session for your painting company. Again, that URL is paintermarketingpros.com/podcast. Hey there, painting company owners. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Give us your feedback. Let us know how we did. And also, if you're interested in taking your painting business to the next level, make sure you visit the Painter Marketing Pros website at paintermarketingpros.com to learn more about our services. You can also reach out to me directly by emailing me at brandon@paintermarketingpros.com, and I can give you personalized advice on growing your painting business. Until next time, keep growing.